All right, and what a wild week last week was. What is up, Utes fans? This is Joseph back with the Utah Utes Football Digest. I'm excited to be back here talking to you guys. Last week, last minute, Bryson Barnes comes in to start and leads us again for a big win against Washington State. Yeah, it was close. Yeah, it wasn't as significant as we thought it would be, but still, the fact that we were able to pull that up with the backup makes you feel really good and makes you just feel really good about Bryson Barnes in general heading into, the rest of the season if he does need to play some more. That'll be a topic we talk about today. Is he playing more? Who really knows? I'll give you guys all the insight I have, but it might not be too much more than you have. The number one thing we should be focused on though is this Arizona Wildcats team. Now, this is not the Arizona Wildcats team of last year that was no talent at all, just struggling to get any wins, right? A one-win team. This is a real team that went toe to toe and was within a touchdown of beating USC. Uh, really good squad here. Definitely a team that is going to take some serious fortitude by this Utah team if we're going to get through it. Either way, though, this should be a fun one to dive into. Let's go ahead and break it down. Go Utes.
Won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless.
All right, and before we dive into the Arizona breakdown video, I do want to announce the winner of the card giveaway from last week. Let me grab that. Well, here it is. So the Nephi Sewell card that we're giving away, the winner was the guy on Instagram. His name is Don't Want This Smoke. So he's winning the card. Really good guess. He had the score at 31-17, and that we'd take a lead, they'd come back, and then we'd come back. But the big reason I like it is that he had their score right at 17 points. And I feel like when you consider that was basically my guess as well, was about 28-31-17. And it's kind of like, we didn't know Cam Rising was going to be out. So I feel like that was a really good estimate. And Cam Rising probably accounts for 10 points or so. So the winners Don't Want This Smoke on Instagram. I just sent you a message, man. So you just reply to that and I'll get that sent out. All right, let's dive into the breakdown. All right, and I foreshadowed this in the video, in the intro, but Arizona, I think some people might be thinking this is going to be a walk in the park. But if you watched the USC Arizona game last week, you're going to know that that is not the case. I'm not saying that Arizona is going to win the game, but if you guys are expecting a huge blowout where we're just a clear favorite, this probably is not the game where that happens. They're a surprisingly good team, and I think some of these numbers will impress you guys quite a bit and kind of put you in the headspace that I'm in. So first off, let's talk about strength of schedule. So strength of schedule, Utah has a big advantage here. Arizona's strength of schedule is 65th in the country. 65th means you have a very average schedule. So your numbers are, they're realistic numbers, but you're not exactly playing against the cream of the crop, but you're also not playing against terrible teams to get those numbers. So that's what 65th means, right in the middle, dead smack in the middle. Now, Utah's strength of schedule is 20th in the country, which means Utah's playing pretty damn good competition, right? That's top 20 strength of schedule. So when you look at Utah's numbers, you give it a slight handicap. Positively to just say like, yeah, we're playing good teams to get these numbers, where Arizona isn't really playing. They're playing solid teams to get these numbers, where we've played some pretty good teams to get these numbers. I hope that makes sense to everybody. The next thing we're going to look at is defense. So, defense for both teams. The first thing to look at is rushing defense. Now, Utah rushing defense is 61st in the country at 142 yards per game. So, right smack dab in the middle, right? A very average run team. I think Utah has also played some teams that run the ball really well. Utah has also played some teams that, don't run the ball super well. So, I would say Utah's a very average run team, not a great defense. But Arizona, it's a little different of a story. Arizona is 112th in run defense at 197 yards per game. So that means you are a pretty bad run defense, right? A pretty bad run defense, especially considering they're only playing the 65th schedule. So they're not exactly playing a stacked schedule of teams. They're getting the 65th or the 112th run defense against a very average schedule. Now, passing defense, Utah right smack dab in the middle again, 66th in passing defense, 233.9 yards per game. Now, again, average, but I would say when you consider that we're getting that number against a very good strength of schedule, or at least a good strength of schedule, that should make you feel good about that. I think we have a pretty good pass defense. And we'll talk about the intricacies of that, but pretty good pass defense overall. Arizona, though, 117th pass defense, 287.7 yards per game allowed through the air. Now, that's a big one, right? That is a big one, especially when you consider their run defense isn't great either. So teams can kind of pick and choose what they want to do against these guys, and it is a little inflated with 400 yards per game through the last 3 games. But don't forget, a big part of that strength of schedule they have that even makes it serviceable is they just played a few good teams, like a few conference teams, and a team like USC is really going to bring that strength of schedule up quite a bit. So I would say, I mean, they're a pretty bad pass defense. I think that's fair to say. Now, overall defense, this will take both into account, kind of see where you land. Overall defense for Utah, 49th. Again, that's against a pretty good strength of schedule. So I'd say it's an above average defense. I would take that with a grain of salt, though. It doesn't always look that way. This defense has had its ups and downs. So I would say 49th is actually probably pretty true to what we are as a defense, a slightly above average defense, but at times can be very exploited. Arizona, 124th in the country at total yards allowed, 485 yards per game. Utah's allowing 375.9 yards per game, just as an idea there. Okay. And now let's move on to the two teams' offenses. So, offensively, we'll start with rushing offense. Arizona, 81st in the country at 132.4 yards per game on the ground. Now, I will touch on their passing offense in a second. They do throw the ball well and they do air out the ball quite a bit. So I would imagine that number is not going to come as much from poor talent or not doing a good job running the ball, but more they just, they throw the ball very well. Utah 41st on the ground, right? 181 yards per game. It's not been as good recently. We've had a little bit of a dip recently running the ball, but nothing significant. I think we're averaging 169 yards per game over the last 3 or something like that. So, a little worse, but not nothing to stress about. Still an above average rushing offense. Okay. Now passing offense. So this is where you start to see why I brought up how talented Arizona is. They are the second best yards per game passing offense allowed in the country. So, or passing offense in the country. So, second in the country at 356 yards per game, guys. That means they're averaging over 350 yards per game through the air. Really good team when it comes to throwing the ball, at least limiting their ability to throw the ball and not letting them get those huge plays is going to be a big factor in this game. Now, Utah's not terrible either. Utah's 51st in the country at 255 yards per game, but also don't forget that does include the Washington State game where Bryson Barnes only threw for 175 yards, which I believe is the season low for Utah. Uh, so that brings that average down quite a bit. So probably a little better than what we're showing, but you know we're an above average passing offense. Uh, Total offense for the two teams, this is where it gets a little scary, right? So Arizona, even with the lackluster running game, or just slightly below average running game, they're at 12th in the country at 488 yards per game total. So 12th best yards per game offense in the country. Utah, still a very good offense, 32nd at 200 or 436.4 yards per game. So still a very good total offense for Utah. Now, because these numbers had a bit of a disparity, right? And you obviously take strength of schedule into account, but I'm sure you guys are noticing it just like me, right? Arizona has quite a bit more yards per game than Utah. It's a really good offense. Um, then I decided to look at scoring. So, scoring on offense and defense. So, with all those yards, how many points are those equating to? And then defensively, with all the negatives, or like when you're allowing a lot of yards, how often are you letting up points? So, scoring, this is going to surprise you guys a little bit. They're averaging over 50 yards per game more than we are. But for scoring offense, points per game, Utah is 28th in the country at 33.3 yards per game. And don't forget, that's the 20th hardest strength of schedule in the country. And Arizona is 36th with 32.4 points per game. So again, that means Utah, even with a good chunk less yards per game, Utah capitalizes on our drives better than Arizona does, right? So again, total offense, Arizona's at 488 yards per game, 12th in the country. Utah total offense, 32nd in the country. Um, sorry, spaced out, but Utah's at 32nd in the country, 436.4 yards per game. But then scoring offense, Arizona's actually slightly worse. I'd say they're almost identical in scoring offense, with Utah 28th at 33.3 yards per game, or points per game, and Arizona at 36th at 32.4 points per game. So very similar in how much both offenses actually score, even though Arizona gets a good chunk more yards. Now, this next number was pretty surprising to me, and I think will give you guys a lot of hope about how this game goes for Utah. It's the points allowed by the defense. So Utah is 41st in the country at 23.7 points per game allowed, where their total defense was 49th. So that adds up right on par, right? But this is the issue. So for Arizona, they're 125th in the country at points per game allowed on defense at 38.7 points per game allowed. So that against a very average schedule, right? They're allowing almost 39 points a game. That's a really bad defense. And the stats back that up, how many yards we're allowing or how many yards they're allowing. So overall, Arizona has a very good offense. Let's make that clear. Arizona also seems to have a dreadful defense, letting up tons of yards. And I would imagine when you look at their passing game, it's got to be slightly inflated, right? That number is pretty damn good. Well, their passing offense, no matter how you look at it, they're a good passing team, right? I watched against USC and the eye test played it out. That number 5 McMillan, monster receiver. We'll talk about him probably in a little bit here, but either way, no matter how you look at it, they've got a really high flying passing offense. But, they're in game situations where they have to throw the ball all the damn time because their defense is just going to get scored on after scored on after scored on. So, those are the stats before we break down the PFF grades and the players to watch. Those are the stats that should give you, roughly an idea of what we're looking for as we break down the players to watch. All right, now we're going to move into the section where we talk about what players to watch on both teams. You can see here on the screen, right? We got Cam Rising. So I looked into it. There's no immediate news on Cam Rising, whether he's going to be playing or not. Maybe there is at the time of the release of this video. But as I'm making this Sunday evening, October 30th, I don't have any news about whether or not Cam Rising is playing. Now, I do have a little bit of info from the few sources I do have, and those sources tell me, or at least the vibe I'm getting from them is that it's more likely that Cam Rising plays than he doesn't play. Right, so I would expect Cam Rising to play, but I'll try to when I do my prediction. I'm thinking I'll probably do a little bit of if Bryson Barnes is the starter, and then also talk about if Cam Rising is the starter, if that makes sense. So uh, that's how I'll touch on quarterback, right? You just to give you a little bit of an idea. Cam Rising is a monster, one of the best quarterbacks in the entire damn country. The kind of guy you put the ball in his hands and he needs to go make a play. He just gets it done. Dude, he just does. That's who he is. He is a playmaker. The stats are out of this world this year. And on top of that, all the clutch 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15 plays that he makes that don't show up on the stat sheet like that. So I would say if Cam's playing, he's a huge difference maker. I do want to give Bryson Barnes his due, though. We'll click on his profile for a second. Had a very solid showing against Washington State. The kid's definitely not a liability. He's not on the same level as Cam when it comes to being a quarterback, but he ran for 51 yards, threw for 175 last week. Let's get his game log here. Yeah. So, you know, really solid showing, especially for a guy that didn't even know he was playing until right when the game started. And I would say, considering how that O line was playing, he had to put the team on his shoulders a few times. And I think he did a great job. 63% completions, so not bad there. I think he's a solid guy. I think he's just as good. I think is way better than the backup on most teams, and as good as a good chunk of team starters, right? He doesn't have a ton of starting experience, but he's definitely not a liability. So I won't touch too much on the quarterback, but just so you guys know, either way, we should be fine. Better off if Cam Rising's in there. As I'm doing this breakdown, I'm realizing just how many guys in this offense are really questionable for next week. So kind of scary, but um, it is what it is. I'm not super concerned, especially about this one. So Tavion Thomas, he is a very good player, playmaker for sure for this Utes offense. Uh, but he's had some behind the scenes issues. I can't really touch on much. I really don't know enough to want to touch on anything, but it seems like there's a good shot that he won't be playing again this week. But I wouldn't say that should make you scared or feel any dismay about the running game. This guy impressed the heck out of me last week, Jalen Glover. Uh, he's averaging 4 yards a carry on the season. He has 3 touchdowns. And seriously, it says 3.8 yards a carry when we played Washington State. But going into like that final drive, he was at 15 attempts on 72 yards. So he was just milking the clock. He had to just run at the line, and they know we're going to run it, and they're just going to do everything they can to stop it. So don't let those numbers fool you. He actually had a heck of a performance. And in real game time, he was averaging almost 5 yards a carry. So if he did need to go in there, he's definitely not someone I'm super concerned about. I actually really liked him running the ball last week, and I think he's going to do a great job. So let's see if we can get Jaquindon Jackson. Let's get him pulled up. So another guy that had a very solid game, right? He's still listed as a QB, but he's a running back at this point, right? He's made the switch. So you take a look at that last game, 10 carries, 43 yards, 1 touchdown, averaging 4.3 yards a carry. He did have the fumble, which was pretty bad. One thing about Jaquindon Jackson is he is he ran tough, but he is a bit of a flashy guy. He likes that big play, right? He likes the big play. And that's not a shot at him. That's a good thing. But like on the fumble, that could have been a play that could have been avoided. He tries to get a little too flashy in the backfield, and it winds up causing a fumble. It was because of a terrible offensive line uh, miscue, but I'm just saying I don't think that happens with every other running back on the roster. He's new to being a running back though, so we got to be patient. But either way, I see good things for Jaquindon Jackson. I love Jaquindon Jackson, Jalen Glover as a 1-2 hit combo with or without Tavion, right? So either way, that's the running back situation right now. All right, and then let's talk about Dalton Kincaid, right? The final question mark going into this game. I as critical as Cam is, the drop off to Bryson Barnes is not the same as the drop off from Dalton Kincaid to the next tight end. We have a decent group of tight ends, but Dalton Kincaid has been fantastic. I think it's for my money, he's been better than Keithy was through that first little stretch. As good as Keithy was, he was probably one of the best tight ends in the country. So is Dalton Kincaid. Just a little more like in a sense that you can just give him the ball on every damn play and just keep going to the well. And that's a little different, right? That's pretty damn impressive. And Dalton Kincaid for me has really stepped up recently. The information I have, I don't have much. Now, to be clear, I don't have much, but the information I have says 50-50. So I'm going to do this breakdown as if Dalton Kincaid is not playing. Now, that's a scary thought. This is a lot of weapons out. If Cam Rising's out, Tavion's out, and Dalton Kincaid is out. And I mean, Brant Keithy's been out, but I'm just saying that's another factor. But let's keep talking about some of these receiving weapons. Let's see here. Boom. Let's go to the full roster. So the next guy, a receiver I want to talk about. Um, well, so two guys, I'll just touch on them both right now. Jalen Dixon and Money Parks, both had really good games last week with Bryson Barnes at starter. So I really like that hookup, right? Jalen Dixon with the one big 27-yard catch, a really nice catch to add on top of that. But then Money Parks with two nice catches and a touchdown. So, or actually, Money Parks did not have a touchdown. I don't think. Sorry. Let me see if I could just pull them up and stop guessing. So let's pull up Money Parks. Yeah, I don't think he had a touchdown last week. Yeah, no touchdown, but still two catches for 43 yards, so average 21.5 yards a catch, and a dime from Bryson Barnes on the sideline. So, catch hooking up well with those guys. Uh, there's one guy I want to pull up. I actually haven't looked at his stats since last week, so I might as well do it with you guys, but I don't remember. Yeah, so this is a little concerning. I'm not saying it's a big deal, but one reception for 10 yards for Devon Vele in the game where Bryson Barnes was the starter. Now, I'm not sure what happened, how many reps he had, but when you consider that Devon Vele is such a big piece of this offense and Bryson Barnes isn't really looking for him, right? Does it show targets? No, it doesn't show targets, but I don't think there was too much more targets than that. So not great there, but either way, maybe next week we'll hook up with him a little more. Either way, though, I like that if Bryson Barnes is the starter, that he is looking to Jalen Dixon and Money Parks. Those are two big time weapons. And he's gonna have to fit if Dalton Kincaid is out and whether it's the Bryson Barnes or Cam Rising, it's going to be a challenge. If Dalton Kincaid's out, it's a different type of offense, right, guys? We're used to really flooding the ball to the tight end, boom, boom, like three times a drive sometimes. So it's going to be a bit of a game changer if Dalton Kincaid's out. All right, now let's talk about the stars for Arizona. Now, Arizona has a big time star in Jaden Delora. He's the QB, he's the guy that makes it all happen. 2,654 yards, fifth most passing yards in the entire country. 22 touchdowns, tied for sixth there, and 8 interceptions. That's quite a bit. It's quite a bit of interceptions. But either way, 73.4 QBR, which is solid. That's a good QBR, 32nd in the country. The guy really stepped up against USC and impressed me a lot from what I watched, right? 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 380 yards, a 60% completion percentage, and ran for 54 yards, 6.8 yards to carry. Definitely a big time player that if we let him go off, he will go off, right? I really like, even looking at the spread, I think Vegas has us as a 16-point favorite, which is awesome. But I think these guys need to be taken seriously. Like this quarterback is a real deal, man. He's throwing a lot of touchdowns, a lot of yards, a lot of interceptions. I'll be fair there, but solid QBR too. I mean, so Jaden Delora, definitely a guy to watch in this game. All right. Now, the big playmakers for Arizona are the receivers. They have running backs too. We'll talk about those when we break down the PFF grades. But I think looking at the receivers is the best I can do for you guys to get you ready for the game. So I got the names confused. McMillan is actually number 4. I said that he was number 5 earlier. That's actually Singer. I'll talk about Singer in a second, but check him out here. McMillan, 31 receptions, 532 yards, 6 touchdowns, 17.2 yards per catch. Against USC, he went 3 for 62, no touchdowns. Big playmaker there. That's just as much as like any of our receivers have on the entire year. And he's a Pac 12 receiver as well. So pretty impressive. And it just gets more impressive as you get on the line here. So this is Dorian Singer. This is the guy I was actually talking about yesterday from the USC game. 7 receptions, 141 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Guys, that is a good group of DBs. We talked about him in the breakdown and after the game there for USC. That is a good group for this guy to do 141 yards on. And those weren't just like little, chunk, and then just get open or like catch a short pass and make something happen. I'm talking this guy was doing one-handed grabs and jump balls in the end zone. I mean, I was pretty impressed with Dorian. All right. So really good player there. He's number 5. He's probably the guy to keep your eye on in their passing game. Jacob Cowing, another big time player though, guys. No joke for Jacob Cowing as well. He might be the guy too. Like they're both really talented. He's number 2 on the field, 7 receptions for 80 yards against USC, 0 touchdowns. He hasn't had a game with less than 77 receiving yards in the past 5 games. And then if you look at the best 3 games out of those 5, so 3 out of the 5 games, he went for 94 or more yards, and then 2 of the 5 he went for 133 or more, and one of them he went for 180. Guys, this team can throw the ball, dude. These are real playmakers at receiver. Those are really impressive numbers. I'm a little shocked that the spread is 16 points. I have faith that we're going to win, but when you like think Rising might be out, Kincaid might be out, Thomas might be out, and they're giving us a 16-point spread. Kind of wild to me. So I would honestly, I'm a Utah fan. I'm never gonna bet against Utah to win. I would never tell you guys to do that. But if you are into betting, and my opinion is worth nothing, I have gotten more bets wrong than I've gotten right. I would bet that spread. I don't know what that means, but 16 points with this high powered offense, even 10 points. I mean, maybe not 10 points, but I'm just saying, I would look into it. If you guys are interested in betting, 16 points is nuts. So, all right, and that's the receiving group for Arizona. All right, and the matchup we're going to start off with first is going to be Utah's offense versus Arizona's defense. I think the premier matchup is the opposite. I think the big one to watch is going to be how does Utah's defense do against Arizona's offense. So I'll save that for last. But I think you guys know in the breakdown, or when we looked at the numbers, it seems pretty clear that Utah will have a significantly better offense than Arizona does a defense. But let's break it down. So this is awesome. Take a look at these numbers, guys. Bryson Barnes graded out at an 81.6 so far this year. That's really good to see. That means when he got the opportunity to start, he looked good. The yards weren't super high, but they weren't bad, and the grade showed up well as well. Obviously, Cam continues to be a monster. What I like about that and why I bring that up is just it tells you that no matter who's starting at quarterback for Utah, we should feel fine. We shouldn't worry too much, right? Okay, now moving into wide receivers. So wide receivers for Utah. Let's take a look. Boom. I see you guys comment sometimes about how annoying it is that you have to go like through and find the team. I agree. I hate it. So Devon Vele is still grading out well. Must have just not hooked up with Bryson Barnes last week for some reason. Money Parks grading out very well, 70.7. That's awesome. Where's Jalen Dixon grading out well? Luca Caldarella still only got a few snaps, but good for him. So that's awesome. I love to see Money Parks and Jalen Dixon grading out really well. It's really exciting to see. Makai Cobb, a little disappointing in that grade, but not terrible. Not good, but not terrible. So who knows? Maybe he gets some more reps and shows up a little better. Maybe he can start hooking up with Bryson Barnes. So that'd be cool. All right. Then the next group we're going to look at is going to be the running backs for Utah. Let's take a look here. Bam. Pac 12, Utah. Tavion Thomas grading out super well. You gotta love this, guys. Another game with Jalen Glover grading out very well. He's right up there with Tavion Thomas. Now, this is kind of what I was talking about here, guys. I hadn't even looked at what Jaquindon Jackson's grade was until right now. But as much as we got excited by a few splash plays and exciting plays by Jaquindon, which is awesome, Jalen Glover impressed the crap out of me, guys. I was really liking what he was doing out there. And I really hope he continues to have that kind of performance and do a great job because I really think he can be a big time playmaker for the Utes. So let's hope he keeps that up. But I would, in conclusion, just I'd feel fine with him coming in for Tavion. It doesn't seem like he's actually. Let's see here. Boom. Boom. He's a better pass blocker than Tavion by a mile, so that's a good thing. All right, but either way, a good, if any of these guys, Bernard, Jaquindon Jackson, Charlie Vincent, they need to come in and get a few reps. It's not a big deal. All right. Well, there's no fullbacks. So let's move right to tight ends. I know one guy that I thought had a pretty good game. I'm wondering what PFF said. And it's actually Logan Kendall. So if you go to let's go to the Utes. Logan Kendall, 65 grade, 79 pass block, 68.4 run block. It's awesome. Dalton Kincaid continues to be beyond a 90.7 receiving grade, guys. That is like inexplicably good. That's really impressive. So let's hope he's playing. It is a big deal if he's not playing. I don't think I think we have a lot of depth, but he is a big factor. So but either way, Logan Kendall looked good there. For centers, let's say, oh, you know what? I don't want to skip over it. Let's actually look at the rest of the tight ends. I could skip it, but let's look at it just in case any of you guys are curious. Let's see how they're doing. Pututau, cool. That's on 49 snaps to 73.3. Yasmin not grading out very well. That's kind of a bad sign. Okay, receiving grade, slightly below average. Pretty bad run blocking. I know for such a big guy, he doesn't run block well. All right, now we're moving to centers. So for centers for Utah, I believe that's going to be Miley. Let's see how he's doing. Um, 60.1. Ooh, he had a rough game, huh? Against Washington State. Jeez, he dropped quite a bit. His pass blocking grade's actually been good historically. So, uh, dang, that's a rough go. That's not good to see. All right, let's check out the whole offensive line here. So moving over into the guards. It is disappointing to see the bad offensive line play. Okay, this is nice. This is good. Keaton Bills, still a below average run block, but 78.8 pass block. Good to see. Solid anchor at guard, especially on pass blocking plays. Very good pass blocker. Wait, let me look at some. I think I just skipped over. I don't know why I only looked at one guard. Sorry, it's a little spoiler. Let's go back to the guards. Sorry, I'm all over the place tonight. Let's see. All right, for the guards, boom. Okay, so Jaren Kump not grading out super well, but on the bright side, an average pass block grade, right? Seems like we're becoming a bit of a throwing team. It's just what our line can do. It seems like our quarterbacks are really good depth and at the starting spot. So, but you don't love how bad that run block grade is for Jaren Kump. So, all right, now moving into the tackles, let's take a look here. Okay, Braden Daniels, very good pass block grade, 75.2. Overall, not a super good grade because of the poor run block grade. Laumea, just kind of a mess. I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm going to keep saying it that they should switch Laumea back to guard and put someone else to tackle. It almost has me concerned. Like, how bad are the rest of the tackles that Laumea is just like clearly, the guy to be playing tackle? So, all right, now let's look at the defense for Arizona. And that's going to start with their cornerbacks. Okay, so they have one good corner in Christian Roland Wallace. He's number 4 on the field, 74.8 defensive grade. Good run defense, very good coverage. So very good player here. You take a look at this guy. He's just going to want to avoid him. The good news is the rest of these corners are pretty bad, and we got a wealth. We got a good group of receivers. We should be able to exploit that. You know, really, when it comes to attacking this defense, avoid this guy, and we should be just fine when it comes to the passing game. None of these other corners scare me. Like even this guy, he's their next best coverage guy, but it's still a below average grade. And these guys, pretty bad coverage grades. All right, now let's move to their safeties for Arizona. Once it loads. All right, here we go. All right, moving Pac 12, Arizona. Okay, so Jalen Turner, very good safety, 73.9, 71.4 run defense, 73.5 coverage. Probably another guy we're going to want to try to avoid. But then this guy is a straight liability for this team, especially against the run and not very good against the pass either. You could see why they have so much trouble. It's not that they don't have talent, it's like they have the talent, then the next guy is a huge drop off from that talent. So starting to paint a picture. Now let's see how this front seven looks. This is a group I'm excited to take a look at for Arizona. Boom. How well can we really run on these guys? Do the numbers really tell the story? All right. So, oh, Jesus. You guys have been, those of you that have been watching this channel for a while have seen me break down a lot of different PFF grades. This Arizona linebacking core is probably the worst graded group of players that I can remember pulling up. Jeez, dude, that is really bad. Three guys that are between 33 and 41.7. None of them can stop the run, and none of them can really cover either. That is, oh man, those so all this red is just kind of scary. Damn. That's a good sign. It's a good sign for us. So really bad linebacking group, which is good for our tight ends too, right? Usually you put the linebacker on the tight end. All right, let's check out how their interior defenders are. Hopefully that's as bad as their linebackers. Not quite. So not good. They're below average. One of them's good at run defense. The other two, not too great either. But so, you know, I don't think our O line should have too many problems with this group. It's a not a terrible group of interior defenders, but below average for sure. All right, now let's move to their edge defenders for Arizona. Okay, so one really good edge here, 72.6, 69.8 run defense, 76.3 pass rush. Wouldn't be surprised to see this guy get a double team. He's clearly the best player on this defensive front. And then this guy, Jalen Harris, not as good, right? Not a good uh, run defense and pretty bad pass rush. Okay, in coverage. So I don't think you're usually too worried about how a edge rusher does in coverage. So just a couple notes there. I mean, I really like how we match up with this front seven for Arizona. Should be a really good opportunity for us to actually start running the ball a little bit. This could be a big day running the ball as offense against our defense. So take a look here. Jaden DeLora, the guy we were talking about, the quarterback, he's number 7, 78.9 overall offensive grade, 75.1 passing grade, and a 74.8 rushing grade. So a very good quarterback in Jaden DeLora here, guys. He's gonna be a tough one to stop. And this is the group I'm a little worried to look at. I haven't seen what their PFF grades are yet. I wanted to save it for when I watched it with you guys. So let's see. Yeah, see, very good receivers. These are the two I was talking about. All right, so number 2 and number 5. This guy's no slouch either. This guy's like basically just as good as Devon Vele. And these guys are just a different level. So you look at these two, you're talking about real playmakers, right? You're going to hope that we can put a Clark Phillips on this guy and hopefully he could shut him down. And that'll give us some opportunities to maybe to do some things against Dorian Singer. But three really good, like this guy's, he would be a starter on our team probably. And then these two would be the number one receivers on our team clearly. So just to give you guys an idea what we're talking about here. All right, now let's take a look at Arizona's running backs. Boom. They don't run a ton, right? They don't run the ball a crazy amount. I mean, they didn't seem terrible. Okay, so a really good group of running backs. Jeez, and especially at strictly running the ball, they do really well. I noticed their average yards per carry was pretty high, so that's a little concerning. That's going to be something to watch. You know, our defense hasn't done amazing against the run, but they haven't been terrible. But they've had games where it's been exposed. But either way, we're going to want to keep an eye on those running backs. I wouldn't be surprised if they played a big role in this game for Arizona. If I was on the opposite side, if I did this for Arizona, right? If I was breaking down videos for Arizona football, I would I would look at that running back group and look at our deficiencies in stopping the run and say that that's something we should take advantage of. I like their tight end's not super good. He's an okay pass blocker. That's not really what you're looking for a tight end to do. So okay. What is this offensive line good at? That's the question here. Okay, Arizona. Okay, not a good offensive lineman here. Geez, really bad run block, but a very good pass blocker. So I'm guessing that'll be a trend, but we'll see. I mean, this team wants to throw the ball. They do have very good running backs, as we saw, but this team is looking to throw the ball. All right. Okay. Bad guards as well, right? The cool thing is only one of them's a good pass blocker. The other two are actually bad in both categories. So that could be a mismatch for us there. The tackles would be important. We got a couple guys that can really rush the passer at edge rushers. So let's see how their tackles look. Okay, check this guy out, dude. This reminds me of the Washington State O line, right? I mean, this guy's pretty damn good. This Jordan Morgan. He's a very, very good player. But this guy, Peyton Fears, he's number 74. He's the guy. Remember against Washington State, I called out, and I hate to give myself props, but I will. But I called out that Van Fillinger might have a big day, which he did. Um, because of their right tackle situation. Now, I'm going to guess that this guy's the right tackle, right? Pass block 41.9. That's bad. That's real bad. I mean, I'm sure Jaden Delore is going to he can make plays with his feet. I watched him, man. He's a playmaker, but I think we're going to get pressure. I think the question more or less is going to be, can we contain Jaden Delora, right? I think we'll get pressure just fine, but can we stop him when we get pressure? So either way, though, I really like how we might be able to exploit that offensive line. Okay, now let's move into the Utah defense and see how they match up here. All right. Oh, no, that's Arizona. Bam. All right, Utah Utes. Clark Phillips continues to grade out exceptionally well. Like him going one on one against number two, Jacob Cowing for Arizona. Zamaya Vaughn's really stepping up, dude. Not looking good against the run, but that's more of a bonus with corners than it is a priority. This is the priority coverage. So imagine if we could get Clark Phillips out there against Cowing, and we could get Zamaya Vaughn against Singer. You know, I'm not sure if that's exactly how it'll go, but I don't hate how our corners are matching up with those receivers right now. We're gonna have to find an answer for the third guy in McMillan, but either way, don't hate it. I don't hate that at all. All right, now let's move in to oh, I don't know why I clicked on tight ends. All right, now let's move into safeties. Let's see how old RJ Hubert and Cole Bishop are grading now. And Sione Vaki. I wonder if he'll show up as a corner, if that's how he'll show. Yeah, so Sione Vaki grading out really well, dude. That's awesome. All right, so check it out. All these three were playing last week. They had Sione Vaki in the nickel. You gotta like that, dude. You gotta like what you're seeing there. That's really nice. That's really nice, especially against a team that likes to throw the ball. All these guys are grading out pretty well in coverage. I mean, Cole Bishop's the worst one, but that's not why you have Cole Bishop out there, right? Cole Bishop's kind of like a gadget, pass rusher, run stopper sort of player, where RJ Hubert's supposed to cover, and he's doing a great job. And Sione Vaki's doing good in coverage and pretty damn good against the run. I really, really like what we're seeing from Sione Vaki. That is awesome, dude. That is really, really exciting to see. All right, now let's check out this linebacker group. I know Mahmoud Diabate actually had a really good week, so let's see how our team's looking. Okay, Karine Reed, boom, looking solid as always. Again, good in coverage. I wouldn't be surprised to see us running some zone here, right? We got a lot of good coverage guys right now. Lander Barton looking solid. All you could expect from a freshman, average grade, but I like to see it, especially like to see the above average coverage grade. Mahmoud Diabate, Still not grading out super well, but I believe that grade had gotten quite a bit lower, and he must have had a good grade last week to get it up to a serviceable grade. Still slightly below average grade, but I like what we're seeing. It seems like he's kind of coming into his own a little bit. Okay, interior defenders. They should have had a good time rushing the passer last week. So let's see. Oh, gosh. Aliki Vamahi struggling as usual. Peppa still killing it, dude. Why does this guy get more reps than Peppa? I actually think last week was the first time we saw Peppa start to get more reps. So that's exciting. Junior Tafuna, you want to see him step up more. It's not happening for some reason, but is what it is. Peppa should be a heck of a matchup. Look at that run defense grade, dude. 82.8. That'll shut down those running backs. And he's an average pass rusher. I mean, he's a good player. Let's get him in there more. All right. Now, finally, let's check out our edge defenders for Utah. Boom. And remember, they had the one really good offensive tackle and the one really bad offensive tackle. Van Fillinger, that grade went up quite a bit, dude. His grade was like a 50 or 55, 56. I mean, that's awesome. It jumped like 10 points. Good job, Van. But this is what I really like to see. So check it out. Gabe Reed, he plays left defensive end or left edge rusher all the time, which means that he's probably going up against that right tackle. He's a 76.2 pass rush grade on 193 snaps. That's a good sign, guys. 117 of those are pass rush snaps. But either way, we got a really good group here, guys. I wouldn't be shocked to see Van have another good game. They like to switch Van and Gabe Reed in and out, right? They rotate these guys a lot. I wouldn't be surprised. Keep an eye on those two, Van Fillinger and Gabe Reed. So that was Utah's offense again, or Utah's defense against Arizona's offense. Okay, so we'll start with our defense against Arizona's offense, right? Arizona has a very good offense. If that wasn't clear throughout the video, I don't know what you were listening to. They're very good. Jaden DeLora is going to score on us. It will happen, right? At least he's going to get a lot of yards. Those receivers are going to give us some headaches. It's not about shutting them down, guys. It's about limiting the what the ceiling is for them, right? We don't want them to just be going off on us all day. Now, I was pretty happy with how our defense has been great now. We've seen a lot of guys that have been struggling step up, like Van Fillinger. I mean, that was great to see. Mahmoud Diabate's grade starting to get better. And I think for the first time, I really liked what I saw from our defense as a whole, right? Uh, so they're going to score on our defense. The question is, how much can we limit them? Now let's talk about our offense. Now our offense against their defense, their front seven, that linebacking core is straight terrible. I think we are going to exploit the crap out of that, especially if Bryson Barnes is in. I think we're going to run the ball a lot more than we've been seeing recently, guys. I think we're going to try to control the clock. We're going to try to limit what they can do, right? Make them score on every drive and just have slow, methodical drives where we continue to just pound that rock. That's kind of how I see that going. If Cam's in, I'm sure it'll be a little more balanced. But either way, I like how we could throw the ball against them, right? They have a porous pass defense as well. One good safety, one good corner. The rest of that DB group isn't very good. I love the idea of working that run game in, getting some shots off the play action, right? Getting them to blitz and start working the screens. I mean, I like that a lot. So now I'm going to tell you guys what my prediction is. So if Cam is playing, my prediction is that we win 48 to 34. That's my prediction. If Cam is playing, we win 48 to 34. That doesn't quite cover the spread, but I think that spread's a little ridiculous at 16 points. I just think we'll really rack up yards on this defense. It's not a good defense. I think they will have some serious troubles stopping this explosive offense that we have, especially if Cam's in. Now, if Bryson Barnes plays, Bryson Barnes is very good, right? We saw his PFF grades. He's a good player. If Bryson Barnes plays, how I see it going is that we still win big, right? I think we win 38 to 31. So we win by a touchdown. Um, but I think it's going to be a lot of running the ball. It's going to be a slightly lower scoring game. Still 38-31. I mean, that's and the truth is, guys, I'm sure you noticed that I said in both predictions that they're going to put up a lot of points, right? One prediction was that we beat them 48-34, and then the other one was 38-31. Uh, they're a really explosive offense, guys. I could see them scoring less, but I'm not predicting that. This defense of ours stepped up last week without Cam in and did a great job. I need to see them do it again before I really just believe that that's what's going to happen. So, either way, I'm expecting a great game, guys. I think it's going to be a really exciting game. I wouldn't be surprised to see, our home crowd at Rice Eccles really play a factor. Either way, though, I'm excited. Before we get out of here, guys, if you guys like the channel, please make sure you guys like the video. It helps get it more views, helps get it out to more Utes fans. Also, comment down below what your prediction is. Hopefully, you guys watch the whole video before you guys comment because I think it might change your opinion. I always want to say the Utes win by 50, but that's not always what I feel when I break everything down. And then make sure if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, I'm going to be talking about Utah Utes football all off season, all year. If you guys were here last year, the off season was such an awesome time, especially bowl season, right? How fun it was, conference championship, all that. But then off season, we talked about recruiting all off season and when they were visiting. That was really fun. So make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't. But outside of that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm out of here. Go Utes.
Won't bother hiding my bruises.